our reaction to Friday practice for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and not Tommy. Not Tommy again, because he's on holiday. Yep. He's on holiday more often than we have races this season. That's a lie. He's going to be listening to that. He's going to be very angry that I've just said that. But instead, we have a man that needs no introduction. It's, of course, Formula One commentator Alex Jacques. He's back once again on his tinfoil microphone. It's one of those things where actually just got walls between us and I'll have to just sort of put my ear against it to hear him. But Alex, thank you for coming along and congratulations, mate, on becoming a new dad.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, this week's commentary and next week's commentary and the triple header commentary will be done with minimal sleep. Who knows? Might improve things. Yeah, pretty delirious first couple of minutes on air today. Didn't have a lot of sleep last night, but yeah, she's arrived. She's perfect. And me and my wife are very lucky.
Amazing stuff. Right, let's talk about some Formula One now. And start with free practice one. Of course, we had a week off and we're having to rejig our brains. We have a few things as well coming into this weekend that's actually quite interesting. The first being the introduction of the C6 tyre. It's a step softer to try and stop these teams from just creating Monaco situations every single weekend. And more particularly, obviously, for the less abrasive tracks to try and force that. So we're seeing that today. We saw a lot of running on them and teams just trying to get their head around this C6 compound.
We know it's a little bit quicker than the C5, but is it viable? Is it going to fall apart? Are they going to avoid it? That's what the teams were trying to evaluate today. Upside was FP1. Drivers were pushing absolutely immediately. We saw that from Charles Leclerc from very, very early on, first 5 minutes of the session. I think it's good to try and address one stops. It doesn't matter if some races are one stops, but I think you'd like to see more variation. Keeps the guessing going longer during a Grand Prix, so I like that Pirelli have brought it.
Other things to mention before we get into the running, they've tried to make Imola a bit wider and better for track limits, making the white lines a little bit wider. How did you see it, Alex, from the commentary booth?
Yeah, just don't want to be talking about track limits, want to be talking about great laps. So if those alterations to decrease basically you had more of a car's width on the exit of some corners, like the first Ravazza, and basically they've removed that. So you can't basically nail the exit of Ravazza 1 and then be pinged for track limits. So it's good. It stops us talking about it. You don't want to get to the end of qualifying and go, oh, that was an amazing lap, but track limits by a centimetre at the second Ravazza. So yeah, I'm glad they've done that.
Right, okay, let's get into some questions. First question, P1 Patreon member, retired Ted. Is impeding on this track inevitable? Yes, my goodness gracious me, we saw some impeding today, just drivers going slowly at points where you're going, really? Is that a team comms thing? Because why are you going so slowly in parts of the track that didn't seem to be the place to do it? So it's definitely something we're going to see, especially in Q1 when we have 20 cars out on track. And there isn't this leniency, is there, Alex? It's not like the stewards will, well, there might be a little bit, but not much in the sense of if you impede someone in qualifying, you're getting a penalty. It doesn't matter if it's Monaco or a wider track like Bahrain.
Driver and engineer communication has got to be superb. And I don't think it's a coincidence at all that a new race engineer in position at Alpine and a new driver in position at Alpine was the car that we kept cutting to, accidentally impeding all the way through Friday. So that relationship and communicating at the right times is important, because there are some parts of the racetrack that if you're there, it's so narrow, you're just not going to be able to get out of the way. It cost Oscar Piastri a podium, didn't it, last year, getting an impeding penalty in Q1. So, yeah, it's going to carry on.
Now, myself and yourself, Alex, have watched Formula One for many, 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 many years. So we've sort of seen the transition of Formula One being a very serious sport, like the most serious sport of all time, to now seeing in free practice one classification graphics Franz Hermann in P7. You got to respect it. Of course, that's the where Max went and did some racing and just can't get enough of it, even when it's away from Formula One. But I did enjoy that very much. But Max himself probably wasn't in a very Mimi mood. I don't think that's a sentence I've ever said, a Mimi mood. But
good sentence, though. I rated it. Very good.
Because he was struggling a hell of a lot out there today. He basically assaulted the wheel at one point because he really was not happy with how the rear end was stepping out.
They are very good, aren't they, Red Bull, going Friday into Saturday. On the evidence of today, they're going to need to be, because if you are striking the floor, you are losing lap time. And then he had that problem at the end, didn't he, with something loose in the cockpit once again. So again, Red Bull starting from a position slightly further back than we've become used to in recent times. Absolutely.
And the other things, I guess, Bortoleto was off right at the end. And I also noted down that Leclerc was holding his helmet down. So that's really fun. That's what I want to see. As a Charles Leclerc fan, that he's not worried about doing lap time. He's worried about keeping his helmet on as he's going around Imola. That's what you want to see after a week break to really instill confidence and hope. But let's move on to free practice 2, the more representative session, of course. And it is once again a McLaren 1-2, very close between the two of them. Pierre Gasly in third. And we're going to go straight to a question from P1 Patron member, You Will Not Have the Drink. Has Grace given Gasly some extra incentive? Now, for those of you that haven't seen the predictions or missed the social clip, Tommy got his 3-year-old daughter to predict the top 3 and put Gasly to win, with Jack Doohan making a return after losing his seat, finishing second, and Lance Stroll in third. And I could not believe, I think it was at free practice 1 in the first sort of 15 minutes, that Gasly was second on mediums. And I thought, Grace is the oracle.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the headline from today. Grace has finally provided this podcast with predictions that make sense. That's the story. He had a great day, didn't he? He had a great day. He's strong. There are tracks where he just has the feel, and Imola is one of them. He's always had ability around this racetrack, so it's not a shock to see him up there mixing at the front, but whether he can keep it going into tomorrow. Listen, he started P4 on the grid earlier this year, hasn't he? So nothing really to lose given the state that they've been in for the last 10 days or so.
Absolutely. And of course, Colapinto stepping in, and he's not done too badly, to be fair, because we did a little prediction, both myself and Tommy, about where he'd qualify, and I think we both were expecting a Q1 exit, but a pretty solid FP2 in 13th for Colapinto. Not had any real testing in this car, and pretty much settling into the team. Were you kind of impressed of how Franco did today?
The quality of Formula One at the moment is enormously high. We're talking about fine margins every single Saturday, even to get into Q2, for goodness sake. And then you're like, okay, cool. So we know you've tested the car with previous era machinery, but can you please get up to speed in 3 hours and escape Q1? It's a tool
around
test.
A track like Imola as well, where there's literally no runoff, nowhere to just kind of test the brakes 10 metres later. Let's see how it goes. Oh, I'm in the gravel. And we saw that with 2 rookies today. Moving away now from Alpine to McLaren, as we mentioned, 1-2 in both the sessions. P1 Patron member Matthew Cole 04. Does Oscar seem that bit ahead of Lando this weekend? I have backed the fact that I believe Lando has a slightly higher potential at the moment, but Oscar is constantly closing that gap. And I think this was a sort of session, especially for Friday practice this weekend, where I went, wow, Oscar looks dialed in. It's not a case of sort of hitting a 95%. This was, because I know it's not massive on the timesheets, but he lost a couple of tenths in that final sector, being held up on his final lap, which would have put him a quarter of a second clear. And you're starting to think, if Oscar can continue to have this advantage and keep out-qualifying Lando, if we do have a Formula One season where it is a qualifying championship, that's most likely going to get Oscar Piastri the championship. But he's looked thoroughly impressive this weekend.
With Lando, there are all the way through the weekend, there will be laps where Lando puts a lap together and you're like, there you go, okay, so he's got the margin. But it's putting the lap together. And around somewhere like Imola, where you have to strike the curb so consistently to get performance, where you've basically got to brush the gravel, otherwise you've left something on the table. That is not the type of circuit that Lando wants on the evidence of this year, where he's been all the way through weekends, quick in 2 of the 3 sectors, and then had a minor moment. But I don't think on the evidence of today, there's barely anything between them. So it looks like it's going to be another straight fight in Q3 between the two of them. 0.02 of a second at the end of 2 hours of running is pretty pretty exciting.
And you mentioned those mistakes. We saw a few of them today from Lando. That exact example of, I think he went on for another push lap, and it was literally the final corner that he lost the back end and then abandoned the lap. So it is a case of, can he put it all together? And it should be a pretty scintillating battle tomorrow. I can't wait for it. Fergie's Right Ref asks, as a Ferrari fan, is there even a point of watching the races now? Or are Ferrari just going to abandon the 2025 car? I'm actually genuinely worried to see whether or not Ferrari will even get out of Q2 tomorrow, because there are so many. It's so close as well, but there are so many teams, at least with one driver, that I could say has a shout of making Q3 tomorrow. The Williams team look awesome. Like, at what point do we announce that Carlos Sainz actually got promoted to Williams? I'm genuinely wondering, because they are on the ascendancy. Ferrari are scrambling around going, God, we built this brand new car for this year, which was supposed to win the World Championship, and we're actually slower than we were last year. Shall we bring out the old one? Do we just see how that one does? It's not good enough. I know it's only Friday, but this has been building up for a while. It's not just this that I'm reacting to. But it's not looking great, bruv, is what I'll say to that.
The most worrying thing is when Charles Leclerc, after qualifying in Miami, was like, that was a great lap. And then he sees the lap time. When you're like, yeah, we need a little bit more of this, we need a little bit more of that. When you know what you're chasing, it's fine. When you feel that that's all the car's got and you're still not in the ballpark, that is when it gets properly dispiriting for the drivers. They do have updates coming. They're going to focus on the rear of the car. There's talk of focusing on the suspension at the rear of the car. But as you say, the problem then becomes, do you then abandon ship and take all of your development to 2026 with that sea change of the rules? It's just a shame that in a season that promised a lot and we expected Ferrari to be mixing it with McLaren, they do not have the performance so far.
It is tough to hear Charles Leclerc is one of the best qualifiers on the grid saying that the lap was absolutely fine. It was great. I want him to say, yeah, I locked up, there's 3/10 down. Yeah, it's just not there. And that's where you've hit the ceiling. And I think it's a no-brainer. Ferrari have to start looking to next year, maybe win Monaco and Monza. Then we just call it a day. Thank you so much. Let's just focus on those two races and move on. I guess just to wrap up then, we had in free practice 2 Hadjar, of course, making that mistake right at the end. I did find that slightly bizarre, that whole sort of procedure where he was in a very dangerous position, and you can throw a virtual safety car in free practice 2. I know that they can also wave double-waved yellows and make the cars slow down, but the cars, at least from my perspective of watching the TV cameras, it looked like they were going pretty quickly round there, considering he was side on. Do you know of any reason why they didn't just throw a little VSC and just calm everyone down for a moment? Because he also got beached because he was staying there for so long.
Yeah, you don't want cars going quickly at that stage. One car has ended up in that part of the barrier, another one can end up in that part of the barrier. Drivers were threatening to drop it off that second apex curb all day, weren't they? And only at the very, very end, with the tyres degraded, did Hadjar manage it. But again, over one lap, I mean, he's won around Imola in the past in F2. Over one lap, he is looking terrific. If the circuit favours a racing ball, he is getting a lot out of it.
It sounds as well, I was watching an interview with him, I think it was with Rachel Brooks, and Hadjar was saying that, and it's quite clear that he has that mental strength of, okay, yeah, that thing in Australia happened, but as soon as I'm in the car, I'm focusing about the next corner and that's it. And having that sort of calm stillness in his head, and I know he's quite hard on himself as well, but it's good to see that he can reset as a rookie, because I think that's something that you need if you're going to have a successful career.
Yeah, something he didn't show all the time, to be honest, in Formula 3 and Formula 2, and I'm really pleased to see that, he gave a great quote earlier in the year where he was like, oh, I'm still shouting at myself in the car. I'm still shouting. I'm just not pressing the team radio button. And I'm like, yeah, sounds a minor thing, but then you don't get a reputation. The team don't have to answer questions about, is Isack's mentality in the right place? Good discipline and good speed over one lap, which is all you can hope for in your rookie season.
Yeah, we all have a little quiet scream, don't we? As long as it's in a dark room somewhere. So there you go. Right, thank you, Alex, and thank you, everybody, for watching and listening for this little Friday wrap-up. I guess, of course, Alex, you're not going to be back for the rest of the podcast this weekend because Tommy is back. What's your feeling? What's your prediction ahead of this weekend? Are we going to see another McLaren 1-2, or are we going to see a surprise? Come on, leave it with something that we can reflect on.
I reckon we're going to see a straight fight for the first time between Oscar and Lando. And we've been waiting for this rivalry to have to have two McLarens in the same place. Basically, we had a little bit of it, didn't we, in Australia, and we've had to wait since. So I think we're in for a line astern McLaren party around the circuit named for Ferrari's founder, and I think that will bring its own excitement. But I think McLaren are clear of everyone this weekend. Maybe the others can find something on qualifying, but I think it's going to be Oscar versus Lando. Gloves off for the first time this year.
Sign us up. Thank you, everybody. We'll be live, of course, for our watch-alongs tomorrow and Sunday on Twitch and YouTube. Thank you again to Alex, and we'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Bye.